It's actually not true that people were only excluded in the military because of performance. I've already recounted some of that history, and if you think it's just history, I invite you to speak to some of the men and women of color and the women in general who are serving now and ask them about some of the discrimination they continue to face. You've already heard today some of the reasons why recruitment is down, and I do talk to some of the service members that I represent, including in my family. Part of it is pay. Part of it is the inability to afford childcare and housing. Part of it is a question about whether they are respected as individuals. But I'm not going to focus just on our fighting men and women. The Department of Defense is one of the largest employers in the country. And having a diverse workforce that are not out in battle is also important, so that they can work together to keep our armed forces ready. And when our service members go overseas, they're going to meet and see people from different backgrounds and work with people of different backgrounds and colors and races and religions. And they probably need some help in bridging those divides. That's part of what DEI does. In an effort to say, we're just going to pretend racism doesn't exist, sexism doesn't exist, homophobia doesn't exist, Islamophobia doesn't exist, anti-Semitism doesn't exist, we're going to ignore it, and maybe it'll go away. It won't. We're going to ignore the fact that a disproportionate number of officers are one sex and one race. That's not based on merit. That's not based on performance. This amendment should be defeated. Diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives are not designed to force a social agenda down anybody's throat. What they are designed to do is to recognize that people are imperfect, that the people that make up our military bring with them the sum total of their life experiences and what they know. And that from the beginning of our military, the right to serve was limited to a very few people. Our Army turns 249 years old this week. My ancestors weren't allowed to join. A year after, when the Declaration of Independence was written and said all men were created equal, they didn't include the men in my family, and they certainly didn't include me. When the Constitution was written, creating a government by, of, and for we the people, it didn't include me. My ancestors were 3/5 of a person. And yet, many tried to fight anyway. Many who were allowed in foreign wars and on this soil, when they came home, faced violence and discrimination because of the color of their skin. Those stories were told in my family, but they weren't taught in the history books. And when I came as a state legislator in Virginia, I recognized that there are a lot of people who those stories weren't told. And therefore, they may not understand why something they say or something they do or a policy they put in place perpetuates 400 years of the impact of 400 years of slavery and Jim Crow. And DEI is designed to do three things. Recognize now our military is open to more than just the limited few people that could join 249 years ago. And maybe we need to make sure that everybody that serves together respects one another, and can be cohesive. That's what it's designed to do. This amendment should be defeated.